Jimmy and I are still trying to digest this loss to Michigan, but that tummy hurts.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and thank you so much for making this your first listen every single day, even under these horrific circumstances. Jimmy, Alabama loses in overtime, 27-20 to Michigan. I'm still trying to really wrap my head around all this. We did a live reaction show last night. I encourage you to go check it out because it did have some visceral reaction, obviously. I didn't even stay up for the entire Washington-Texas game because, why bother, right? I'm a college football fan, but I'm also a human being, so I was a little bit depressed. And turns out Washington wins that game. So if you really want to – let me tell you how bad this weekend was for me. My kids leave. I have 3 kids, 1 at Arizona State, 2 in Ohio. The one that goes to Arizona State is a huge – talked about him before, got Asperger's, but he's just not really – He does fantastic at school, does all these things, but socially he can be a little, it's an Asperger's thing. Well, he fell in love with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2016, I think it was, and he's just been like an Eagles fan the way I'm a Bama fan. I've taken him to Eagles games in Arizona, I've sent him to games in Atlanta and Detroit, but he's never been to see the Eagles play at home. So we got him a Christmas present. Him and his mom are going to go to the Eagles game at home, see him play Arizona. Easy win, right? No. The deadgum Cardinals, one of the worst teams in the league, beat the Eagles at home. Then Alabama loses. And my daughter, who is a big Alabama fan and who in 2 years will be going to Alabama, she and I are just drowning in our tears, and it's just awful. So a lot of bad stuff. And my kids left. I want my kids here. I like my kids. But anyway, so – kind of a rough weekend. And then Washington wins, which would have meant that if I'd gone to the game, that if Alabama had won and we play in the national championship game, I'll suspect very correctly that the tickets would be much, 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 much cheaper. Yes. And that would have been a super nice thing. But, hey, it is what it is. And Jimmy, I think let's start with I think it's best if we start with some good news. I know I've already started with some other bad news, but this is for the podcast purposes. Start with some good news. Good news. James Burnip kicked butt. I appreciate you, James Burnip. Thank you. I appreciate you, Will Reichert. I hate to see you go, but I love the fact that you ended your career with 2 50-plus yard field goals in the Rose Bowl. It don't get any better than that unless you win it. Other than that, and Justice Haynes, I thought Justice Haynes played his tail off. And Jason McClellan's return, getting 2 touchdowns, which also sort of helps us when Georgia fans say, well, so-and-so was hurt in the SEC title game. Yeah, we didn't have Jason McClellan, who, by the way, pretty good when he's healthy. Other than that, I'm having a hard time finding the goodness. Now, one thing that I did think about last night was, we can complain about a lot of things, and we will in this second segment. But, in the second half, for all the defensive issues we had and confusion we had, Michigan didn't score in the second half until just the final minute and then in overtime. Those were the only 2 times they scored. Now, giving up that long drive, and especially 4th and 2 in their own 30, was terrible. But the defense needs to be applauded to a degree because they really picked up their game in the second half.
Yeah, I thought the defense played extremely well in the second half, really for most of the game. I think for whatever reason, I think a lot of the fan base just underestimates Michigan. I don't really know how or why, based on results, based on their dudes. This is a really good team, and they may, in fact, win the national championship. And the fact of the matter is, let's say Michigan wins the national championship. Alabama proved they're 1 play short. 1 play. All they needed to do was make 1 more play, whether it was that 4th and 2 Luke referenced, whether it was the Milroe fumble, whether it was a play in overtime. Just change. All you have to do to change the outcome of that game is change 1 play, and you have a handful to choose. And even what's more crazy is I don't think Alabama played a great game. I mean, I think Alabama played fine. I think Alabama played good. I think Alabama played hard, but they didn't play smart and they didn't play great. It wasn't their best game, and it needed to be. Uh, but again, one play short. I know that makes it even more frustrating for fans because you're so close. But it also just shows how great the program is right now, and that's not changing. There will be a lot of players that leave in the next few days, and some that go pro early. This is a great program, and Alabama is going to be right back in the thick of things next year. There's a lot to be encouraged about, and Burnip will return as you pointed out early, and I think Alabama will have going into the season, in my opinion, the best punter in college football.
No, I agree with that. The kicking game will be another issue, and there's some other aspects to the special teams, which I'll get to in the second segment, where we're going to complain a lot more. One other, I'm struggling for positivity here, but I did see a stat that isn't directly related to Alabama, but it made me think, at least it's not that. Iowa played 3 ranked football teams this year. They lost 92-0 combined to those 3. Alabama didn't do that. So, hey, chalk that up.
A good example of a team that's not close. How close is Alabama to being national champions? Basically, about one play. But Iowa not close.
Well,
not close. Good defense though. They literally are a good, maybe even a really good defensive team. But gosh, offensively, they are dreadful.
Dreadful. Now, let's also again. I'm trying to find some positivity because I want to give people something to cling to. But we have 2 losses this year. The 2 losses are the 2 teams that one's going to play for a national championship. The other one was in the college football playoff and lost on the last second, kind of like we did. So it's really hard to have too big of a gripe. I think some people are going a little far with the fire Tommy Rees, Jalen Milroe can't get it done crowd. I think Saban's washed up. I mean, y'all, let's take a step back, because here's the other thing. If you want to talk about some good news, we may be getting some very good news at the Under Armour All-American game. There are 2 guys. Daniel Hill is there. There's a crystal ball that's been put in our favor for Daniel Hill. I didn't think that was coming. And Zay Mincy's still out there. I'm not saying we're going to get him. I'm just saying he's still out there.
We're highly optimistic at BOL. Highly optimistic. Doesn't mean lock, stock, and barrel, write it down. It just means, we're optimistic, and we have a really good track record with this class. Really good track record when we're optimistic. So optimistic about both. Mincy's number 2 cornerback in the whole country. He's really good. Daniel Hill's fine. He's good. He's definitely somebody to celebrate. Zay Mincy is elite. I mean, elite. If Alabama lands Mincy, Luke, this will probably be the best DB class Alabama's ever signed.
Well, I'll say this too. And Kool-Aid may come back. That I don't think he is.
Yes.
I don't think he is, but he could.
I say he's not, but I say he's not. But I'm to the point now. I will no longer be. I won't be shocked. Will I be surprised? A little bit.
Mildly.
A little surprised if Kool-Aid comes back. Terrion, I sort of expect back.
One guy did announce that he's leaving, and he left no doubt about it. And we'll talk about him here in this second segment. Right now, though, I want to tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel.com/lockedon. You know I love me some FanDuel. Y'all do too. Don't pretend like you don't. You know you love it. It's so much fun. It's so much fun, especially during bowl season and NFL season. And the NFL regular season is about to wrap up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get 150 smacks in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets if you win or if you lose. I can't do any better than that for you people. I tried to get up to 155. They said, Luke, that's all we're doing over here at FanDuel because that's nice enough. And I said, you're right, and I don't want to be greedy. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like same-game parlays, live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. That's the best way to find all these popular parlays that everybody's knocking home, and much, much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup because basketball season is coming right around next. That's what you want to get involved in. And basketball, they got games every day, bruh. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Okay, so second segment. This is where I get to complain. I don't know where to start.
There was no complaining
First
in the
of all,
first
I'm gonna
segment.
start with.
I thought there was complaining in the first segment.
No, that was
Yeah,
mild griping. Okay, first of all, let me just throw several things out there. You pick which ones you like the most. I've written these down.
Okay.
I want to, and again, just let me get through them, and then you can pick the one you want to address the most. Number one, I don't think this team has a very high football IQ. I don't mean that like this team is dumb. I mean it like this team doesn't have a good idea of situational awareness sometimes. That's down from the coordinator positions. I'm not going to put it on Saban. Saban has pretty good situational awareness. From the coordinators down to the backup center, down to everybody. And I shouldn't say backup center. That makes it sound like that's the lowest on the totem pole. It's not. But, I mean, Milroe doesn't have good situational awareness. I don't think Seth McLaughlin does. I mean, he's got to know, hey, my number one goal has got to be to get the snap back there. If I get run over, I get run over. But if I don't get the snap back there, this whole thing's ruined. The defensive backs, all I saw all night when Michigan was doing all their eye candy was a lot of pointing to each other. Like, oh, my God, I thought you had him. I thought I had him. Yeah. You know, which way did he go? Which way did he go? Then, Jimmy, here's another thing that bothers me about this game. I thought Michigan was the more aggressive team. And I think in games like this, we've learned time and time and time again, the more aggressive teams win. That's just like in business. The more, you hear all the time, so-and-so's a billionaire, but he went bankrupt 3 times. But you know why? Because he continues to be aggressive. You don't recoil into a shell when you lose a play. And Michigan didn't. Michigan had a throwback pass that should have been stopped. I mean, Dallas Turner knocked J.J. McCarthy so hard that they had to go to Home Depot to get a weed eater to get the grass out of his helmet. But they still completed the play. And it also didn't mean Michigan quit being aggressive. They tried a flea flicker later. And I know there was somebody out there going, yeah, but they almost fumbled it. They did almost fumble it. They did. But I think moments like that make your team go, our coaches believe in us. That wasn't a stupid play. If you go back and look, it was very I think Aboigbe's the one that blew it up. Was it Aboigbe or no? Deontay Lawson. Lawson blew it up.
Deontay.
And when Kirk Herbstreit showed the play again, he said, if Deontay Lawson doesn't do what he does, that play's wide open for a touchdown. So the aggressiveness, Seth snaps, and again, I'm not trying to throw a singular person under the bus here, but his reaction afterwards, when it was addressed, he was like, I don't really have an explanation. Somebody's got to have an explanation. You can't have those bad snaps consistently, and we did them all year long. Again, to his credit, nobody ever made him stop. If we were really that concerned about it, maybe we should have put somebody else in. And then Jalen's fumble. God bless, God knows, on this very podcast for the last several months, really, I have lauded Jalen Milroe with praise. He's gotten so much better, but you cannot fumble in the situation he fumbled in. We're driving to score to put the game away. That would have put the game away. And I know Michigan missed the field goal right after that. But it changes the way you call the game. It changes everything. And you cannot fumble right there. Cannot.
I do think the Jalen fumble was a major play in the game that helped shape the outcome, and it was a bad play. All turnovers are, and that's one thing. I think he got better as the season progressed in terms of turning over the ball was an issue very early in the season, and by late in the season, Alabama turned over the ball at the quarterback position far less than the vast majority of teams. Still something that needs to be cleaned up and addressed in the offseason, but overall not terrible. The snaps, I think Seth's position with the team is one of the more interesting debates, period. I mean, he has the eligibility to return. In terms of, they should have taken it more seriously and gone to someone else. I would say that none of us know what happens at practice. I would assume, and as a matter of fact, I mean, I think it's safe to assume that they tried a lot of things at practice, including other players. I think if you'd gone away from Seth, the answer is Darian Dalcourt. I mean, that's what would have happened had you gone from Seth. They would have gone to Darian Dalcourt. And I think that's a name, for whatever reason, that also doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in the fan base, because there's more to the center position than just the snaps. You got to get your position blocked. And Seth generally did it well. I even remember one particular snap where the snap was bad. It was bad, but then Alabama had a great result on the play, in part because Seth completely blew up the dude he was blocking. I mean, you know, there's some upside to him, which is why he was always out there. I'm guessing now, one thing my mind changed before the game and after. My guess now is that Alabama moves on from Seth. But for those excited about that, I would just say, well, I guess we'll just have to see what's behind door number 2, because it's going to be a mystery, because now even Dalcourt's gone. So the center, assuming it's in-house, is going to be James Brockermeyer or Terrence Ferguson, maybe Rock Montgomery, maybe Olas Alanine. But again, you're talking about guys who've never done it in a game. They've never done it in a game. You're not – no one can promise anyone that it's going to be better. You're just hoping that it's going to be better. So obviously they have a lot of time to work on it. But as of right now, that's what I guess happens. I think Alabama moves on from Seth, and we'll have a brand new center who's just never played college football.
Let me say this too. This is from an AL.com article. The Michigan defensive lineman Chris Jenkins. He said after the game, Chris Jenkins was asked whether he thought the Wolverines had impacted McLaughlin's snapping. He said, "I'd like to think we did." But he said it with not a lot of confidence. And then he said throughout the game, McLaughlin snapped the ball low. It threw off Milroe's rhythm as the Tide tried to fix what was ailing its offense. And the problem surprised Jenkins. And this is what Jenkins said. I was like, what happened, bro? I was genuinely confused. I wasn't even trying to talk trash. I was just like, what's going on? He didn't say nothing but fair enough. And so it sounds like to me what Jenkins was like, okay, I'm genuinely concerned why your snaps are this low as a human being, not as a competitor. I'm not talking trash. I'm wondering what's going on. And I had the same thought. And again, I'm not throwing – this game is not Seth McLaughlin's fault. But, man, eventually, don't you – it would have been nice to say, hey, instead of making them all low, eventually overcorrect. Try and get some of them too high. I would rather them be too high for Jalen Milroe.
Couple were high. Couple were high. Not that high. But, no, it's been a problem all year. I mean, it was a problem all year. I think for whatever reason it may have been worse at the end, which is just really unfortunate. But it had been a problem all year long. But like I said, the fixes, I'm sure. I mean, you know, they practice a lot and they do a lot while they're out there, and these coaches' jobs depend on it. I'm sure they tried a lot. They just felt like, hey, as bad as this is our best option right now, which is exactly what I'm saying. I think center may be the number one question mark on the whole team going into next season, more so than quarterback, a lot more so than quarterback.
That's a good point. Here's one final thought on this, Jimmy, and it goes back to what I was talking about aggressive. By the way, the only thing we were aggressive on is the one thing I wish we would never be aggressive on ever again. I don't care if Alabama ever returns a kick ever again for any reason. I'm done with kickoff returns. As my brother said very astutely to me this morning, it's like we just took a knee to get it to the 25 and immediately got a holding penalty. Every single time we returned a kick, because we only got it to the 15. I understand.
Yeah. My guess is Kendrick Law, who doesn't get the ball enough. We try to get the ball to Kendrick Law in the pass game, and we don't. I think there's some Kendrick Law frustration over, hey, this is my only opportunity to impact the game, and I'm a great player, and this is my opportunity to make something happen. But, boy, he did not.
Now, here's one other thing, and I think this aggressiveness issue that I've talked about, I think it could have been offset. And, again, it all is dependent on scoring on that last play, which was a terrible last play, which was set up by a bad snap that led. But in the end, we have 4th and goal from the 3. And our play was bad. And I know there's been some talk that it was really supposed to be an RPO with a pass to the backfield and blah, blah, blah. Whatever it was, it didn't work out. But had it worked out, here's where I think we could have offset all of Michigan's aggressiveness through the game. We go for 2. We look tired. I would have been all for Nick Saban saying, I'm going to win it right here, just like Brian Kelly did against us. I'm going to win it or lose it right here. And would you have gone for 2 is my question. I would have.
I don't know. I mean, to me, I mean, when I say I don't know, I'm not trying to dodge it up. I think it would have depended on how easily Alabama scored. Had they scored on that play, and I think it was there, by the way. I mean, I've rewatched it several times. I think it was there. I think Milroe, the guard pulls, and Jaden Roberts did a fairly decent job of sealing off that edge. I think had Milroe followed Jaden Roberts and stayed on his left hip, he probably scores. So had Alabama scored easily, like, boy, they just walked right in. I would have been very a proponent of going for 2. Had you scored easily. If you'd been hit at the goal line and it's did he get in or did he not get in, or had you had to make some miraculous catch? No. But had you scored easily, I might would have pounced on them while you had momentum there.
I'd do the other way, Jimmy. If we make the miraculous catch, I'd definitely go for it because they're shell shocked. That's me. Again, I go for it in any circumstance because I looked at the defense. The defense gave up 2 runs in overtime and a touchdown. That tells me the defense is tired.
You also, and again, it gets back to practice. One of the things they do in practice is they have all these 2-point plays, as they call them, and a lot of short yardage stuff, and they do it all year long. They know from practice going up against a really good defense how good they are at that. Like, wow, we consistently do well against our own defense in this situation. That's something that they know that they never share, and it could be that they're not. That like, that we don't score too often. So I think that's a factor too. Again, they do things at practice that we're not aware of, and they practice like banshees. They're out there all the time, and the players practice even when the coaches aren't with them.
All right, one player has told us he is 100% no ifs, ands, or buts. Those are his words. He's going to be leaving. We'll tell you who it is. So Dallas Turner, he made no bones about it. He's out of here. And he sounded as if he's kind of anxious about it. And look, you catch a guy, I'm not going to read a lot into an emotional statement after a loss like this. I'm not going to read a lot into it. I just think Dallas Turner is like, yeah, I've done all I can do, and I don't blame him because Dallas Turner he's probably a top 15 pick, maybe even a little bit higher. He's won several accolades. No, he didn't win a national championship at Alabama, and that's a shame. I hate it for him. But if I'm Dallas Turner, I'm leaving too. I didn't think J.C. Latham played a very good game. I didn't think he had a great year, honestly, but I think he's also gone. And then it comes down to, okay, Alabama is going to have to make some roster room. There's no doubt about that. And I don't know exactly how it's gonna go. But Jimmy, your thoughts on Dallas Turner and then anybody else that could be hitting the door?
Yeah, I hope people, I mean, one thing I noticed last night on BOL, I mean, it's not fair for the fans to have this emotional reaction and then be upset when the players are emotional. The players should be and are more emotional than the fans. I mean, Dallas was emotional and upset. That's not to say that that he's going to rethink and stay. I would 100% expect Dallas Turner to enter the draft. Now, 100% expected that before last night's game. I just think his quote was just born of frustration and emotion over losing the football game. It means more to them than it even does to us. I know that's hard to fathom, but it's true. And I just think he was very emotional, as was Seth, who didn't want to talk to the media when the game was over, as was Jalen, who was very frustrated right when the game ended. That's all 100% understandable. I mean, they wanted to win the national championship. They wanted to get to Houston, and it didn't happen. So, but anyway, in terms of staying and going, I think Dallas will leave. I agree that J.C. Latham, that's my guess. Again, I'm guessing there, but I'm guessing based on things I hear. I think Dallas and J.C. Latham go pro. I think Kool-Aid probably goes pro, but I'm at like 60% there. I think 60% Kool-Aid heads to the NFL. I think Terrion's more like 40%, meaning that I now expect Terrion Arnold to stay at Alabama. And I think Kool-Aid might, but But if I had, if we're 50-50 is the tipping point, I'll say Kool-Aid goes. In terms of guys entering the portal, it's going to be several. And this is what you guys need to prepare for. I mean, in terms of my guess is 7 or 8 will enter the portal in the next 5 days. That's just a number. It's not because I've got the 7 or 8 guys in mind. I mean, I have a few in mind, but I'm guessing that total is going to end up being around 7 or 8. It would actually be a good thing if it was more. In terms of there needs to be room made on the roster for all the incoming guys. Alabama may sign up to 26. You've already got 3 portal guys coming in. That's 29. And it kind of makes sense, right? 29 in means 29 out, right? And out means graduation, NFL, portal. And so it probably needs to be more than 7 or 8, but that's my guess. I mean, in terms of what the numbers and hey, there's going to be, let's say, half of the portal guys that leave, fans will be upset and they'll think something's wrong, or that Saban or the staff did something wrong, or they'll just, shake their fist at the clouds. Welcome to 2024. I mean, this is, kids want to play. Kids want to play. They came to Alabama and they wanted an opportunity, and now they want to play. And if they're second on the depth chart, that's not playing for them. So I'm expecting to lose a few that at least fans have a negative reaction to.
And it is a shame, again, that we lose, in the sense that I think we would have seen more of a Justice Haynes, who looked good in this game. I think we would have seen maybe even a little more of Antonio Kite, who, by the way, he's most known for letting a punt touch his leg that Caleb Downs very wisely covered. But he was out there, and he was out there in a situation that means a lot in the Rose Bowl, on the really the biggest stage, I mean, outside of the national championship. So these guys were getting some run towards the end. And look, I think it's haphazard for us to throw out some names that we think could be in the portal. But if you follow Alabama football and you know the roster, you know some potential guys. I mean, you know the depth chart enough to know, okay, this guy could. And here's the other thing, Jimmy. Guys enter the portal now just to see what their worth is, and I don't blame them. I don't like it. I just don't blame them.
No, I get that. And there would be, there was a Drew Sanders situation a couple cycles back. I mean, that's just one name where a kid entered the portal and the staff was doing all they could to recruit him back. Jalen Moody entered the portal and the staff ultimately recruited him back. It could be that just because a kid's in the portal, that doesn't mean they're gone for sure, or that means the staff's okay with it. But the staff does need some room here. So again, it'll be a really interesting 5 days. It's January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th for Alabama players. I think midnight on the 6th is the deadline, unless you've graduated. If you've graduated, you can enter the portal at any time. And Alabama does have a few graduates, but the majority, I would expect, Luke, that in the next 5 days we'll know. And of course, the deadline for everybody to know about turning pro is January 15th. My guess is there will be a press conference at Alabama on roughly the 15th, maybe the 14th, but maybe the 15th, where these players will announce that they're entering the draft. Again, I would have right now, there's going to be Latham and Dallas Turner. That's my guess. Maybe Kool-Aid, maybe Terrion, maybe a surprise, but JC and Dallas, I think they're almost certainly out. And
I'd be willing to bet too at that press conference, you could have guys like Jason McClellan announce, even though I don't think anybody expects him back, like Roy Dell say they're leaving, or Jay say they're leaving, or somebody like that.
If we're just guessing about seniors that might come back, first of all, we know Trey Amos and Christian Story intend to come back. We know that. And I was about to add Q Robinson to that. Q Robinson says he's coming back. I don't think that's official, but I think he says he's coming back. I bet no one comes back other than them. No one.
How about this, for a bit of irony, again, trying to end it on a positive note? Quindarius Robinson, who was best known for his career for muffing a punt. I don't even know. I guess he touched a punt, not muffed.
He touched a punt,
against Tennessee. And now he recovers the punt against Michigan in the semifinal game.
He actually had a good year. He didn't play a
Yeah,
ton of snaps, but he played quite a few snaps with the first team and was good. I think Quandarius coming back would be big for Alabama, and I really hope it happens. I believe it will happen. But again, of all the seniors, I'm guessing. I think Robinson comes back, but I don't think any of the others will. I think the Seth thing is over. I think Roydell and Jace move on. I think Malachi moves on. I think all the seniors, other than Q Robinson, Trey Amos, and Christian Story, are coming back. And again, Amos and Story didn't participate in Senior Day. I've noticed a few comments on BOL before about what do you think Amos and Story are going to do? And like, how much more loudly can they announce that they're coming back than I'm not even going to come out here and participate in Senior Day? That's about as loud of an announcement as you can get it. It's like my buddy with AL.com, Craig Stevenson, always says, so funny. Kids announce they're going to be in the Senior Bowl. There's this press release, I'm going to be in the Senior Bowl. And then weeks after that, they announce, I'm leaving school. Yeah. And it's reported like it's news. And it drives Craig crazy. And to me, I'm now amused by just how upset Craig gets about it. But Craig's like, in caps, he said a month ago he's playing in the Senior Bowl.
Jalen Simpson did that. When I saw Terrion and Jalen Milroe, and then I also saw Jalen Simpson and Elijah McAllister from Auburn at this Christmas party. I talked to Jalen Simpson. I said, have you decided what you're going to do? He said, no, I haven't decided. I said, but are you going to play in the Senior Bowl? He said, yeah, I'm going to play in the Senior Bowl. And I said, well, then you've kind of decided. And he just goes, maybe. I don't think he wanted to announce it. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, and again, just like the commitments, we're pretty good at BOL. Hey, kids deserve their moment. Give them their moment. That doesn't end once they enter college. They all still get to have a dramatic moment, and that's fair. And media and all shouldn't ruin that for them, I guess. But man, when you announce you're going to be in the Senior Bowl. Now that said, sometimes kids do pull out. Will Reichert, for instance, had accepted a Senior Bowl a year ago. I mean, that's one of the. I mean, Will Reichert was going to the Senior Bowl. He told the Senior Bowl, yeah, I'm coming. And then later had to say, I changed my mind. I want to go back to Alabama. So that can happen.
All right, buddy. That's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.